You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hello, and thanks for joining Revolution 250. This is where we remember events that took place 250 years ago this week. It's a short bonus episode from the American Revolution podcast to remember these important 250th anniversaries of the Revolutionary War. This week we remember General Charles Lee's arrival in Charleston, which took place on June 4th, 1776. During the first year of the Revolutionary War, there was no Southern commander of Continental forces, since there were no British regulars there, and the only real threats seemed to be coming from the Cherokee Indians and a few Loyalists. The Continental Congress mostly left the South on its own. In early March, Congress appointed the first two brigadier generals south of Virginia. James Moore and Robert Howe, both of North Carolina, received commissions. Moore was involved in tamping down the potential Tory organization in North Carolina, while Howe was operating out of Virginia. South Carolina was still on its own. Early in 1776, the Continentals learned that a British force under General Henry Clinton was headed for the Carolinas. How did they learn that? Well, Clinton sailed down to New York City, and Charles Lee, who was in charge of Continental forces in New York at the time, wrote Clinton a letter asking what he was doing. Clinton sent a letter in reply to his old war buddy, letting him know that he was headed for the Carolinas. Congress had initially planned to put Lee in charge of the Northern Army in Quebec, but then decided to send him south to counter Clinton. The British were sending a fleet with another army of regulars under General Cornwallis. Clinton planned to meet up with that force off the coast of North Carolina, where they would arm an army of North Carolina Tories to secure the region. General Moore defeated the Tory army at Moore's Creek Bridge before they could meet up with the regulars, so Clinton had to wait off the coast while he awaited the arrival of Cornwallis to decide what to do next. After Cornwallis arrived, they decided they would go capture Charleston, South Carolina, before heading up to New York to join British General William Howe's attack on New York City. General Lee moved south slowly, taking his time to deal with various matters along the way. In Baltimore, he ordered the arrest of the royal governor there, which ended up forcing the governor to flee the colony. He moved down to Virginia, where he took over part of the College of William and Mary and spent time ordering the destruction of several Tory plantations and the forced removal of other Tories who lived along the coast. General Lee, expecting the British to attack Charleston, finally arrived in the city on June 4th to oversee the defenses there. Lee brought with him 1,900 Continental soldiers to supplement the South Carolina forces that were already there. One of the first things Lee did was order the evacuation of Sullivan's Island in Charleston Harbor. The wooden fort there, Lee believed, would never withstand a British naval assault. Also, the fort didn't have any back wall, meaning the fleet could just sail around to the back and slaughter the garrison. South Carolina forces refused the order. South Carolina Governor John Rutledge told the fort commander, Colonel William Moultrie, that Lee had ordered the evacuation of the fort, but that Moultrie should ignore those orders. He should follow Rutledge's instructions and continue occupying and strengthening the fort. The British fleet would arrive a few days later, demanding the surrender of all Continental and South Carolina forces. Lee and the others, of course, refused to consider that, and it would take another 3 weeks before the two sides would engage in battle. I hope you've enjoyed this Revolution 250 moment. For more details or context on this topic, please check out episode 96 on blog.amrevpodcast.com. Please also subscribe for free to the whole podcast on whatever platform you like. Thanks again for listening to this Revolution 250 moment on the American Revolution podcast.